Kataras tai nedidelė šalis artimuosiuose rytuose, tačiau pasaulyje ji tampa vis įtakingesnė. Pasak Katare dėstančio profesoriaus Mehran Kamrava, tai iš dalies lemia Kataro politinė padėtis.
So it has pursued a foreign policy that has tried to have as many friends as possible and as few enemies as possible. And what that has resulted in that Qatar talks to a lot of different actors and a lot of different countries. Not always do these different actors and different countries talk to each other. So Qatar has been able to enhance its strategic value as a useful conduit of communication and information between countries and actors that don't usually talk to each other.
Šalia tarpininkavimo įvairiose konfliktuose, pavyzdžiui, tarp Jungtinių Amerikos valstijų ir Afganistano ar Izraelio ir Palestinos, Kataras taip pat užsiima ir tarptautinėmis investicijomis.
National investments have been one of the tools that Qatar has used extensively to try and enhance its security and its foreign policy objectives. So, for example, in Europe, Qatar has bought many iconic buildings. The Shard building in London, the 10% of the London Stock Exchange, having shares in Volkswagen. The Qatari flag is everywhere in Champs-Élysées. So what Qatar has tried to do is to make itself indispensable to the global financial system and make itself extremely visible to those powers that count as a means of security and as a means of enhancing its foreign policy objectives.
Prie Kataro svarbos pasaulyje prisideda ir įvairių renginių organizavimas. Pavyzdžiui, FIFA 2022. Apie šio čempionato organizavimo įtaką pasakoja ekonomikos profesorius Alexis Antoniadis.
The World Cup has been a landmark for Qatar for two reasons. One, it put Qatar on the map and it raised awareness about Qatar. And it comes at a time when the Gulf is becoming more important with the growth in Dubai and the growth in Saudi. And the other change that took place with the World Cup is that it helped build a beautiful city, a boutique city, a very safe city, very modern city, and that makes it an attractive destination both for holiday but also for people thinking to get a residency or move.
Vis dėlto požiūris į Katarą po čempionato organizavimo buvo ne tik teigiamas.
All the Europeans did was to criticize Qatar. The Germans, of course, are incapable of watching sports without alcohol. So the Germans criticized Qatar for that 90 minutes of the fact that alcohol was not served in stadiums. The British never forgave Qatar because first Russia and then Qatar beat Britain's bid to host the World Cup.
Internete pasirodė daug straipsnių kritikuojančių Katarą ir iškeliančių į paviršių hiperbolizuotas šalies problemas.
There were all sorts of negative press. The Guardian, of course, talking about numbers of dead workers that are just simply don't add up. They're improbable.
Tačiau tai nesustabdė Kataro ekonominio augimo daugelyje sektorių. Kataro nacionalinės vizijos dokumente yra įvardinta įvairių vystymosi strategijų.
Development strategy, for example, one of the areas would be manufacturing. The other one is logistics. The other is tourism. So look at tourism and you say, what else can we do to make our product more appealing to tourists? And we have seen a huge expansion or the announcement of a huge expansion in one part of Qatar in the north. Last week, the announcement of a major theme park to be developed there. So they're looking at every sector and they're trying to find the projects within each sector that will help the sector.
Taip pat Kataras mėgina išplėsti naujus ekonomikos sektorius. Pavyzdžiui, informacinių technologijų.
It's focusing on startups and tech. That's a very big thing as a new strategic area. And for that, we had the Web Summit in February of last year. That brought a lot of companies, a lot of attention. It will take place again in a couple of months. And out of the Web Summit, the Prime Minister announced a strategic initiative of 1 billion that will be given by QIA to companies, to venture capitalists who would like to come and set up in Qatar. So that's
Norėdamas pritraukti daugiau naujų kompanijų ir darbuotojų, Kataras kuria įvairias iniciatyvas, ieško būdų, kaip šaliai padaryti patrauklesnę atvykstantiems.
Qatar Investment Authority, through the Funds of Funds program, they launched this initiative where you can go online and you can apply as a VC fund, as a venture capitalist fund, to come and set up in the country. And they will give you seed money, 10, 20 million. So that makes it very attractive for companies that are thinking to have presence in the region to consider Qatar.
Profesoriaus teigimu, Kataras yra itin geras pasirinkimas įvairių sričių specialistams ir kompanijų steigėjams.
Of Qatar is that it's more smaller in scale, which means if you are in the country you get to know everybody, and that's very good for business. It's a very beautiful and very safe city. So if you have a company, this is exactly the kind of place you want to be. It's easier actually to bring staff here, not initially if they haven't visited because they hear all the stories, but from our experience, when people come here, they tend to like the place.
Profesoriai tikisi, kad Kataro įtaka pasaulinėje rinkoje su laiku tik augs, tiek politinėme, tiek ekonomikos sektoriuje.
But it's really about finding the new strategic priority areas. I think what is changing now is before the focus has been to cope with the blockade, then with COVID, then deliver the World Cup. Now all the attention is really to diversify the economy. So I think there are exciting times ahead, but it will take some time to get there.
It's foreign policy which is meant to ensure its interests. Qatar is likely to continue to emphasize the importance of mediation across not just the Middle East but in Africa and elsewhere. And I think Qatar is, the financial resources that Qatar has are only likely to increase as time goes on.